As Fort Hood prepares for tomorrow's memorial service, the man suspected of shooting dozens of people is off a ventilator now and able to speak. Good evening and welcome. I'm Leslie Rohde. And we're learning that a retired military attorney who now practices criminal defense law has been asked to represent Major Nadal Malik Hassan. John Galligan says he wants to speak to Hassan before making a decision and was planning to head to Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio, where Hassan is tonight. Hassan's ventilator was removed over the weekend, and since then he's been talking with medical staff there, although it's not clear whether he's talked to investigators. Our team coverage begins tonight with Shannon Powell in San Antonio.
Major Hassan is off life support, and we are told able to communicate with medical personnel. But anyone that does not have a military ID is not even being allowed on this military base. We are also being told that Hassan is in a secure area of the hospital with extra security surrounding him after he was shot by a civilian police officer. The Army psychiatrist is more than 150 miles from Fort Hood, where he is accused of killing 13 people and injuring dozens of other people. A medical center spokesperson says he is able to talk, but won't disclose if Hassan is talking about last Thursday's massacre. Eventually, he will be questioned by military personnel, but they may have to go through his attorney first. Hassan's family has hired retired Army Colonel John P. Galligan out of Belton to represent him. Galligan has represented other soldiers in high-profile cases.
The most major thing I can say is I'd like to meet with my client, and until I meet with my client, I've advised appropriate military officials that no interviews, no interrogations should be conducted by law enforcement.
Right now, there is a guard at Hassan's door, and you have to have a special pass to even get on the floor where he is located inside the hospital. At the Brooke Army Medical Center, Shannon Powell, KXAN Austin News.
15 people remain hospitalized tonight, 8 of those in intensive care, now 5 days after the shooting. Shannon Wolfson is live with the latest on the investigation.
Leslie, you're hearing Reveille play on post right now as they are lowering the flags. Now, Army officials continue to call Major Hassan the only suspect, although formal charges have yet to be filed against him. Of course, the investigation continues here on post, although the focus now is on moving forward and grieving. The Soldier Readiness Center is still a crime scene. Only investigators are allowed inside, but the remainder of the post is moving on with their mission.
We're entering a new phase here, and this is where I'm most concerned as a commander of Fort Hood, and that has to do with this healing phase that we're in. And I think what's absolutely critical is that we understand the nature of what has happened here. And you know, there are probably about 600 people who are somehow directly touched by this incident.
The Army has already begun to help those impacted, setting up a family resource hotline and counseling services for soldiers and civilians traumatized by Thursday's tragedy.
We are going to take a very hard look at ourselves and look at anything that might have been done to have prevented this. And I think what's really important is that Hassan was a soldier, and we have other soldiers that that might have some of the same stress and indicators that he has, and we have to look across our entire formation, not just in a medical community, but really look hard to our right and left, and that's a responsibility of everybody from the top to the bottom to make sure we're taking care of our own.
Taking care of their own and looking inside so that something like this never happens again.
What I'm directing commanders to do is immediately take a hard look and make sure if there's anybody out there struggling that we're going to address their issues.
Meanwhile, the grieving continues as the post prepares for a somber memorial service. Security is high in anticipation of the President and First Lady's arrival Tuesday. Sunday night, the Army built this wall around the area where the memorial will be held. More than 3,000 people are expected to pay tribute to the fallen. Now, we learned this afternoon President Obama is expected to speak at tomorrow's memorial service, which is being described as traditional, with prayers, a roll call of the names of the victims, and a 21-gun salute. It is scheduled to begin tomorrow at 1 in the afternoon here at Fort Hood. We're live at Fort Hood tonight. Shannon Wolfson, KXAN, Austin News.
Thank you, Shannon. The civilian police sergeant who's being hailed now as a hero, Sergeant Kimberly Munley, amazingly survived that gunfire exchange between herself and the shooter. Now, we have several crews covering all the angles of this story, and our Jenny Hoff is live now from on post there with the details of this final shootout. Jenny?
Well, hi there, Leslie. It's incredible to think that Sergeant Munley actually survived the event that happened there on Thursday. But we talked to a man who witnessed it all and said even though he was just a few feet away, he was unable to help.
I could see everything. It kind of happened like it was in slow motion.
Trapped inside the building right next to the Soldier Readiness Center, Specialist Thomas Becerra watched the entire scene unfold. Major Nadal Hassan waving his gun and shooting into the crowd, and civilian police sergeant Kimberly Munley running in to stop him.
You know, it was put out that he was in the building, so she just ran towards the building, and then but as soon as she turned the corner, he was right there, maybe 20 feet away.
After exchanging gunfire, Munley retreated and Hassan advanced.
I was thinking if I was outside, I could have yelled to her that, hey, he's right around the corner. I was helpless, totally helpless.
That's when Becerra heard another shot.
He took a shot at her, and he hit her, and she went down, and she was on the radio. I could see that she was on the radio calling. I guess she was saying officer down, and she was looking up at him, and he had the gun pointed, and he shot her again.
Becerra says that's when other officers brought Hassan down, and the soldiers started trying to save their fallen comrades.
In one wounded, I had to use my belt, and as a pressure dressing, I had to use my pad, my feminine pad, to keep him from bleeding.
You're almost in disbelief when someone that you've trained with for so long comes in and they're covered in blood and they're just saying, help me.
Now, Sergeant Munley is recovering in the hospital. No word yet on if she'll be able to attend the ceremony here tomorrow. Reporting live from Fort Hood, Jenny Hoff, KXAN Austin News.
Amazing stories, Jenny. Thank you for those. Well, from those moments during the shooting, we turn now to reaction to Officer Munley's bravery from some of those who know her best. KXAN's Josh Hinkle has been working on this story today. Joins us now from the press area inside Fort Hood.
There are a lot of angles with this story, and KXAN is trying to stay on top of all of them. We have 3 crews working out of 2 trucks back there, 1 other crew working in here, and I'm working at this mobile station here to bring you some background on Officer Kimberly Munley. Today, I tracked down some of her neighbors. Here's a preview of what we have at 6.
Knowing that there's so many brave people on my block is just really awesome.
Now, with so many people deployed for the military and stationed so far away in this neighborhood, those left behind have really appreciated having a cop like Munley so close. And they're not surprised at the bravery she showed during last week's shooting. We'll talk more to people close to Munley, plus hear more from the man who witnessed Munley's encounter with Hassan coming up at 6. In Fort Hood, Josh Hinkle, KXAN Austin News.
And more eyewitnesses to Thursday's shootings are now coming forward to share their stories. The soldiers inside that soldier processing center say they thought it was a drill Thursday when that gunfire erupted there. 2 soldiers, Specialist Scott Hamrick and First Sergeant James McLeod, stayed out of harm's way during the shootings. Sergeant McLeod took cover in a utility closet with a crowbar, waiting for that suspect to come by. He said his training kicked in not to put himself in a defensive position.
That's the only thing that really replays in my head is that I truly wanted to get him, but I couldn't because I would have put myself in harm's way.
Soldiers are receiving counseling now and say they're talking to each other about that incident to help each other heal. The mental health of soldiers has been a big topic brought to light as a result of these shootings. At Fort Hood, they are currently testing what's called resilience training. Now, this morning, we received a tour of the Resiliency campus there on the post. It helps soldiers learn coping strategies for post-traumatic stress disorder before they go to war. The training was also tested earlier this year at Fort Jackson in South Carolina.
If you cannot change a situation, what can you change? Your reaction to it, okay? That will help to limit your frustration and stress when the event does come around.
Now, ultimately, the Army will require all 1.1 million soldiers to undergo this mental training and will track its impact on their mental health through a questionnaire.